One thing what I'm gonna start trying to do is I set this goal that I want to try to read a book a week, and I figure I can do it if as long as I stop spending so much time on my phone. Because that's what I did the last couple of weeks. Instead of just sitting around on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, I would just read. And like, if it's a good book, dude, I get lost in some of these books. So like, I'll sit there and I mean, I knock it out in a week. Isn't that bad?
How long do you plan to do this for? Like, how many weeks?
I mean, I just wanna make it a habit. I didn't, like, set, like, a really specific goal, like, for a bit, I was thinking I wanna do it for a whole year, but it really depends on if I have a good book to read, you know what I mean? So, I just bought 3 books, the Robert Monroe trilogy, about out-of-body experiences, so I just read the first one, Journeys Out of the Body, and it's awesome. But even before if we I don't know if you wanna get into that, but before that, I read another book this week. I've got it for free, like a PDF file on my phone. Cause dude, turns out you could get, like, almost any book you want for free. Just type in the title and then put PDF after it on Google, and you get the book for free, basically. But I read this book called, Doorways to Light. This book is insane. I don't know how well I'm gonna be able to really describe it, but it's insane.
Who was that by?
Some, like, Indian guy. But it's like about this guy and his guru, and it's like a true story, right? But it sounds like straight fiction. It's like all magic, it's all light beings, astral realms, energy work on the earth, like, it's really wild, but it was a good book, and, like, if you put yourself in the frame of mind, like, that you're reading this guy's true story, which he claims is his true story, it blows your mind because. Like, he works with these beings that are called the rishis, which are, like, I guess what you'd call, like, what people call their spirit guides or something, but these rishis, they work on, like, a different dimensional plane, and, like, they're trying to just do good for the planet, I guess, but it's just a story about this guy and his guru, Amara, and his guru is, like in the book, is just an absolute G, like, this guy, super wise, contact with his spirit guides or whatever you would call them. It's pretty intense book, but I kind of found it by accident. I heard somebody talking about it on a YouTube video. I was like, let me see if I can find this book. I recommend it, but you have to have a real open mind because it seems like you're reading a straight fiction, but it's the guy's story and it's powerful. So
Yeah, I always go back and forth in my mind about gurus because I also I find myself when I hear certain stories about people like performing magical acts or, so be it. Um, Part of me wants to automatically think like there's really no way. But then when I read like Ram Dass, when he talks about his guru, Maharaji Neem Karoli Baba, like, the stories that he tells about him are just magical, and there's so many people that tell so many stories about Maharaji and all of the what they call, cities, with a D, not a T, not like a city like New York, but like a city,
mhm.
which is basically it means like a magical, like, miracle gift that a particular person has, generally like a guru, and they show you this gift in order to at least in like Maharaji and Ramdas's situation, like Maharaji sort of showed him his city um in a way to sort of like convince Ram Dass that like I'm not bullshitting you, like this is real, you know?
Mhm.
And when you hear some stories, if you really allow yourself to suspend your disbelief and listen, some of this stuff is really like miraculous and magical.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, I up until fairly recently, maybe 6 months or so, like, I was pretty closed-minded and shut off to what you would call, like, a lot of I don't know, what you would say, like, mystical gifts that you say people have, or even, like, when you hear about people talk about spirit guides and stuff, I it's like, it's so easy to judge things that you haven't experienced. So, like, I've always thought that was complete nonsense. But I'm start after, like, the more reading you do and the more experiences you have, it does open your mind to what is possible, and especially once you wake up and realize that pretty much the whole paradigm you've been living under your whole life isn't quite true, or even that you didn't even realize it on your own. It was just information fed to you that you repeat. Like, that's one thing I'm trying to do is kinda gather my idea of the world through my own eyes, like my own realization. Try not to take information from somebody else and just believe it. I'm trying to get information from, gurus online and all these spiritual teachers and stuff and verify it for myself. That's the key thing. Like if I can verify it, then I can accept it. So that's kind of where I'm at on this. And as far as like the spirit guides and stuff, I've had, you know, experiences in, like, dreams and stuff that somewhat align. I mean, I'm not there yet, but that's why I'm more open to that stuff now, and, like, same as, like, telepathy and clairvoyance, like, all this stuff, it's like, I can see how it's possible and how it's accessible, but if it's so ingrained in your mind to not believe it, it's like then of course it's not gonna happen for you. So, like, right now what I'm trying to do is really open myself up to the idea of it and do the practices that people talk about and then try to verify for myself if this stuff is, legitimate, which I have strong intuition that like it is.
If these things speak to you in a way that like resonates with your heart and really like makes you feel a certain way, then whether or not it's tangibly real isn't important because these types of subjects don't travel on the same roads as tangible reality does. It's not just, you know, if it's verifiable by Neil deGrasse Tyson, it's true.
Right. Well, that's I mean, like, the stuff isn't quantifiable, like, that's the thing, like, it same goes for, like, all the strange phenomena, like UFOs, ghosts, whatever, like, people think that science is going to be that these things should be subject to the scientific method, like, that they have to be or it's not true, but just like with that frame of mind, it's like it's just one tool, it's a hammer, you look at everything like a nail. So, I think that just getting into the mode of verifying things independently and experiencing it, that's what I'm going on now. I'm also trying to, try to get so much out of my head. I wanna, like, start following my intuition more. Like, if I hear something in my head that, like, says to go do something, not just say, "Oh, that's a stupid idea," and never do it, but actually do the thing. Like, go with my gut immediately and do it. Like, I had it happens to me a lot. Like, I'll have, like, a thought of, like, going to a certain place and meditating. And I'm always like, "Why would I do that? That's stupid," and I never do it. So now I'm gonna start doing that type of stuff, like, just follow that voice that tells me to do something and see possibly if it starts leading somewhere or, I mean, it can't hurt just to try out, like, basically a new method of living instead of being so, like, just so intellectually driven, like, everything has to be rational. If it's not rational, I'm not doing it. I wanna follow, like, the feeling more and try to just, like, flow a little bit.
It's hard to balance that in a world that is dictated so much by your analytical mind and what you're doing every day. Like, you have to wake up in the morning and you have to wake up at a certain time, like to get to work. And it's like in between all of your obligations, if you're not exploring like your mind or exploring the possibility that you could be intuiting things, then I mean you're like skipping and missing out on like a whole other section of your life that you could be enjoying and like prospering with and benefiting from.
Yeah. Luckily for me, I get out of work at 3, so it gives me a lot of time to, you know, do work and, try to try to figure this all out.
I think that's a funny phrase that you use, figure this all out. It really is like it's a constant exploration and like I don't want to say struggle because that makes it seem like it's like negative, like it's a bad thing, but it really is like you're really trying to force an answer because that's the only way that we can really rationally wrap our minds around something is if we seek an answer out of it. And that's I do find myself doing the same thing.
Yeah. But, like, I try not to, you know what I mean? Because I know it's not an answer, it's just that's what I mean when I'm saying, like, follow my intuition. It's a way like, they people say, "Trust your gut," and That's I believe in that. So I want to start feeling more from my heart rather than overthinking so much. I mean, I've always prided myself on my rationality and my intellect. Like, oh, I'm a good thinker. I'm a rational person. And I'm not saying I'm going to throw all that out. Like, I still love that aspect of myself, and I want to continue, being that person. But at the same time, it's like I've realized that I've shut off a whole other aspect of myself and called it nonsense. Like when you have like this intuition, and also like when I have some of these thoughts, they're often like really good things, like for other people. And I'm just like, why would I do that? That rationally doesn't benefit me. But maybe if I start doing all those things, maybe, I'm pretty sure it would benefit me. Like I had this weird thought to just go meditate in the cemetery up the road and like plant flowers. Like it was just like a weird thought. Like, and then like that's something normally that I would just push away and say, like, that's ridiculous. That's stupid. Why would I do that? But I mean, why did that thought come to me? Maybe I should do it. You know what I mean? I'm gonna start trying to follow things like that.
Yeah, like when you follow your heart, it might sound like kind of cliche, but when you do, you'll find that you benefit in ways that you didn't know with your rational analytical mind that you would.
Yeah, all this, it's so beyond rationality, like just life. Rationality is just a tool that we use. So like you're not gonna rationalize everything. I mean, you can, but that's just one way of doing it.
Are there any specific examples of you attempting to listen to that part of your mind, or is it something that you just sort of been kicking around and like you're almost waiting for the opportunity to present itself?
Well, I just kinda made this conscious decision to really do it. Like, I've theoretically been telling myself that, like, I should listen to that more, but now I'm gonna, like, really, really do it. So, like, last night, I'm on my phone looking up, like, how to buy flowers in bulk so I can flower up
Yes.
the cemetery, and, like, is it legal to, do this and all that? So, like, I am gonna take that action. I'm gonna do it. I'm just something I feel like I should do. And, lately, like, actually acting on it, the only thing I have been doing is meditating. Like, you ever get that voice in your head that says, like, "Oh, I should meditate right now,"
All the
and
time.
then you don't, though, a lot of times, at least me, like, I'll get that, and then I'll just go on my phone or something. Like, I'm trying to like, I was really thinking about this. What I might do is actually get a flip phone, because I realized just this week, or in the last couple weeks, all the reading I've done and how much better I felt just by, like, distancing myself from my cell phone, and, it makes you realize, like, what you could get done if you don't have that major distraction, plus, like, all the negativity that comes with it, you don't really realize it, but I find myself getting banned on Facebook. I'd be, like, arguing over dumb shit with people, or it's just, it's just not a healthy thing for me, so I f I'm really considering getting a flip phone, actually, just, like, distancing myself from all that. But it's tough, dude. It's like it makes you realize how addicted you truly are to, social media, internet, and that's the thing, podcasts, like, I'd have to there's definitely positives to having the phone, but, I mean, it's worth a shot, so I might try that out and see how it makes me feel. Because really that's what this is about, you know? I wanna, test myself and see what I'm capable of and what can happen. Because what I've started to realize, and what I hear from a lot of the people I listen to that, like, teach in this field and all that. It's like we are truly capable of amazing things that we've shut off, like, our whole life. We just treated it as if it's fake, or it's woo woo, and, like, sure, some of it is, and some people are definitely con artists and scammers. I'm not gonna turn into a medium or anything, but I do know, based off of, like, what I have been doing, and especially the psychedelics truly opened the door for me, is, like, what the mind is actually capable of is absolutely insane. Like, I was telling you that I started doing, like, meditation with these frequencies, like, because 'cause I'm reading, Robert Monroe's Far Journeys right now, and, Robert Monroe, he's the founder of the Monroe Institute, and he does, like, a lot of the work he started doing was with, different sounds and frequencies changing your state of consciousness. Because he's popular for writing about out of body experiences. We talked about a little bit of that the other week, and, his books are amazing, it's just incredible, but he made all these different frequencies that really change your state of consciousness, and, like, I never tried it until the other day, like, I woke up in the morning, and it was early, so I got up and went to the bathroom, and I wanted to lay back down and go back to sleep. So I laid back down, and I found one of these frequencies. It was like a binaural, frequency, so it plays, like, a different frequency in each ear, and it was like a theta frequency. So, like, basically, it's like the way that you it helps you lucid dream or astral project. The goal is basically keep your mind awake and put your body to sleep. So I laid down and I did this for like 2 hours, or maybe it was almost like 3, but I put this frequency on and I just laid there and did breath work, like deep breaths in the nose and out the nose. So like I just laid there and did the breath work with this frequency on, and I noticed, dude, it was crazy. Like eventually, like I got into a really deep meditative state, and I realized, like, wow, this is like, why wouldn't it work? These frequencies, it is helping. Like it definitely got me into a weird state. They say, like, before you astral project, you get, like, a vibration feeling all throughout your body, and I was laying there, and I had the vibration, and I was getting, like, weird visuals in my but I also had, like, auditory hallucinations, whatever you would like to call it. So I'm laying there, and, like, my body is, like, I'm so relaxed, like, it's just like a self-hypnosis, basically. So I'm, like, in this state, and, like, I'm drifting in this weird place, and my body feels like vibrating warmth kind of rolling over me. And, uh, and like I said, I was hearing shit, like, I was, like, hearing voices, like, chatter, and then, like, I heard all of a sudden, like, what sounded like a freight train, like, it was loud, just vroom, like, it flew through my room, basically. But I was so relaxed, like, my mind, like, wanted to jump, like, scared, like, "Well, that was loud and crazy," but I was so relaxed that I just remained still and kept breathing, and I what I've realized is with the breath work and the meditation with the frequencies, like, laying down before bed, like, my goal for it is to get better at lucid dreaming and actually have out of body experiences. But regardless, just the meditative state that I got from it was really insane. I did have like a voice talk to me too. Like I was in and out of like a sleep state, and it said something about animals holding information. I couldn't really, like, it was so fleeting, and like I was in such a strange state, but it was something about data and animals, and I was like, what the fuck is it? It was just weird. But I'm telling you, dude, you should definitely try, like, look into maybe when you go to bed, because it doesn't hurt, just put headphones on and find one of these, frequencies and just lay down, do the breath work, and, uh and also, dude, when I did this, it led me into an extremely vivid dream. Like, it was very vivid. I wasn't lucid, but I feel like I could have been. And one of the things where I made a mistake is I had the headphones up too loud, because when I got into this vivid dream, I was trying to talk to people, and I couldn't, like, everything was coming out like, because I was hearing the beat in my dream, like, so loud, and in the dream, I had my headphones on, so I'm like, "I take these headphones off." Took them off, and clearly, like, I still heard the beat that was playing in my physical body. So I'm gonna turn the volume down and try to do it, with lower volume so I can actually hear what's going on in my dream, because it was very vivid. I think I could have, got lucid, but I was so distracted by this freaking beat blaring in my ears because I had it pretty loud. But it's pretty amazing because 'cause I'm just kinda rambling a bit, but what it does, it plays different frequencies in each ear, and, like, it does something in your brain where it, like, adds them up to a frequency basically that you can't hear. It's, like, beyond, human hearing, and it, like, creates it in your brain. I'm not a scientist, but, yeah, it's really crazy, dude. It's like, and then you start getting, like, these weird auditory hallucinations and these vibrational feelings in your body. Like, even something as small as that, you know, at a certain point in my life, I wouldn't have thought that was possible. I'd be like, "Dude, you're crazy. You're just tripping, man. Like, that's not real." But, like, it was real. I had a great meditation and a little bit of insight. But like I said, that was my first time really laying down and really doing the practice. And it was good, dude. Like, I laid there for about 3 hours, like, in the morning. I woke up at, like, 6 AM to pee, and then laid back down, and I was laying there with this beat on for, almost 3 hours. and it was pretty awesome.
Those are binaural beats, right? So I guess
Yeah.
you
Oh,
could break up the word bi and neural. So I guess what it is, it's the theory behind it is you're listening to headphones that are in like a stereo mode and you have each ear with a different frequency and they're like vibrating essentially because sound is vibration. So it's vibrating in a way that they sort of, I mean, for lack of a better anatomical phrase, like they meet in the middle and
right. That's what I was.
they vibrate your consciousness in like a way that will allow you to like slip into, you know, an astral projection, a deep meditation. I have used binaural beats in the past, and like you said, um, I have been getting that little intuition thing in my mind before I go to bed every night,
Do
and it
it.
tells me you better meditate, boy. And I'm like, oh shit, okay, I'm gonna. So I usually do before bed or in the morning. So I'm trying to really have like a consistent meditation practice because all of these spiritual avenues they start with meditation. Meditation is the training. It's the bicep curl for your brain to be able to navigate these types of experiences. And my ultimate goal is to train my brain to be able to navigate the psychedelic experience deeper and deeper and deeper with higher and higher and higher dosages. And as I stand right now, frightened wholly of psychedelics just because of their power. And I know that part of that is because I there's I've done a lot of the proper work that needs to be done in order to understand these things, especially intellectually and like scholarly, like that kind of work. I've done a lot of that and even philosophical thought and exploring different ideas. But one thing that I am lacking is like that strength of meditation, that really strong foundation of meditation, because that is the training that you need in order to find yourself more comfortable in these realms with like freedom to navigate as opposed to just being taken on a ride. Because when you're doing a psychedelic, you are, you know, you ingest the substance and the thought always comes into my head that like there's no turning back now. Like you're on this ride. You bought the ticket, now you're going to take the ride. And taking that ride is usually a situation where you are beholden to wherever the substance wants to take you. And that's a good thing because you have to surrender to a certain degree to these experiences. But with a solid foundation of meditation, and like we were calling it consciousness work, you can get more out of these experiences because there's always more to get from them. Every time I talk to anybody, you know, I have a certain amount of experiences that I can share and a certain amount of information that I can disseminate from those experiences, but then other people may have other avenues of information where they've experienced different things, and it's just an endless pool of information that you can swim through. And I want to put my flippers on, you know.
Oh yeah, I'm with you. And you said I basically do a lot of. I mean, mostly where I'm lacking is I have to meditate more. I mean, I'm doing better with it, but I want to start meditating at least 20 minutes every day, which I think that's not hard. I can do that plus more, I believe. I just have to make sure I do it. And on top of that, I want to start doing the binaural beats every night, just going to sleep with them. Instead, because normally I just play like a podcast or something and go to sleep to that. So that's what we were kind of saying. Like, I'm so deep in the theoretical aspect of the work and the philosophical where I have to put more to action. Like, I have to, instead of just listening and reading about it all the time, I need to cut that in half and make the other half actually doing the work. So instead of laying down listening to stuff about it, actually laying down with the beat and doing it, because it was mind blowing that the first time I tried it, I actually had some success. And like I didn't expect to hit like that vibrational state they talk about with astral projection, but I got there. Um, Also, you like we were saying, binaural beats. Robert Monroe, he has his own set of these, like, because you can go on YouTube and find, like, a bunch, like, of awesome ones, really good that's from, like, YouTube creators or whatever, his are called HemiSync, and, like, it's, like, focus 1 through, like, 21 or something, so, like, focus 10 is one I've used, but supposedly, I don't know it off the top of my head, like, each one of them have different, properties, like, what they could be used for, like, some of them, he has ones that are good that for listening to and, like, retaining information, so, like, you could listen to the frequency, get in the mode, and, like, read something, you'll retain better. He has one, it's Focus 21, I believe, where it's supposed to put you in contact with, like, your guides or entities and or whatever, which, like, I woulda told you a while ago I thought that was complete nonsense, but it's not, like, I've met with, like, beings in my dreams. So, like, I know there's something there, like, the other day, I had, like, a really vivid dream, and that's the thing, they're so fleeting, like, it's hard to remember them fully. But, like, some being was manifesting on a TV I was watching, and, like, it was changing my consciousness in the dream, like, something really trippy, it was really weird, but it was like a TV tuning into a frequency, and this, like, alien type looking thing started, like, appearing and, like, kinda communicating telepathically with me. So I was like, I could take that as just like a silly dream, or I could kinda follow my intuition and try to ride that wave and go a little deeper and hopefully get some useful knowledge out of my dreams, or I mean, if you talk to a lot of people, they'll tell you that dreams are important, you know what I mean? It's not I mean, it's what you make of it, I guess.
Yeah, they say dreams are sort of like the halfway point between you and God or something, where like God can communicate with you like via your dreams.
Well, I had a dream one time where it was like a god dream, and this was when I was, like, a teenager, and ever since then, that really changed me, like, that dream I died in the dream and basically ended up in a heaven type place. I mean, it's not what you would think of heaven to look like, but, and then I was put in a room and had an experience with God, and this was, like, my first really, like, I'd say, kind of mystical experience because it was communicating in a way that I've never experienced before. Like, I had, like, I was, like, put in this dark room, and then God, like, spoke through me, and it was like it's just my what how I interpret it, but it was like I had extreme vertigo, like, and, like, my consciousness was it's pretty indescribable, like, it was just really intense and, like, vibrational is, like, the best way I can describe it, but I woke up from that and I was like, "Well, how is that possible?" Like, I'm not saying I talked to God, like, for real, but whatever happened in that dream was something extraordinary. Like, it wasn't, anything I could really explain or just forget. I remember that dream pretty vividly, well, very vividly, and I'll never forget it. And that was a game changer for me. So, like, I know we're talking about, uh, like, how you have this, like, bit of a fear from psychedelics right now, and I'm kinda with you, but today I had uh, just a thought of, like, "Okay, I think I'm almost ready." But, in the meantime, that's why I'm really getting deep into this, dream and, lucid dreaming stuff and all this, like, I'm gonna dive deep into it, and that's why, like, I'm reading these books. And, not to really get off topic, but what you said earlier about, Ram Dass's guru reminded me something about, Robert Monroe. You're talking about the one day you were telling me that story, I don't know if you wanna tell it now where, his guru, like, they gave him LSD and you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Ram Dass found himself in India in the 60s. And this was after he met his guru. And, he was already infatuated with him and they were, going through their process. And he looked at Ram Dass and he spoke through a translator to the American Westerners that were his followers. And so he spoke through this translator, and the translator said to Ram Dass, "You got any of that yogi medicine?" And he was like, "Yogi medicine," and basically he meant LSD. And this wasn't just your average LSD. This was like the Sandoz laboratory, Albert Hoffman, like real, like the good LSD, the strongest LSD pretty much that was taken ever, in large amounts. So if anyone listening knows anything about LSD dosage wise, it's measured in micrograms. And, if you have 130 to 250 micrograms, that's a pretty solid dose, especially when you're going above 200. And his guru, Maharaji, asked him for a pill. I think he had it in like pill form at the time. And he gave him some and he said, "All right, give me another, give me another, give me another." And he eventually had 1,200 micrograms of LSD, and um, nothing happened at all. Ram Dass is here thinking, what have I done? Like, I'm going to kill this guy. He's in his 60s or something, and I know I'm going to kill this old man.
Just dosed him up.
Yeah. And, even if it wasn't going to be a dire situation like that, he thought, this might be super interesting to see like this all knowing guru and like what would happen if he takes an enormous amount of LSD, which is really what mushrooms and LSD are what got Ram Dass to India and what introduced him to the types of thought patterns that, would allow him to accept a guru in his life in the first place. So for him, this was a real test as to whether or not this guru was the real deal. And nothing happened. He just supposedly exists in this realm at all times, or he can exist in even higher realms at all times. And what Maharaji said about it was he said, it's these drugs get you in the room with God, but they don't let you stay there. And actually later, Ram Dass had gone back to America and he had come back to India again. And, you know, when you experience something like that that blows your mind so much that impossible for your current frame of reference, of course you're going to have doubts.
Mhm.
And what's funny is when he went back to India, Maharaji said to him basically, I know you have doubts, about whether or not, I faked taking that acid. Ram Dass said himself, did Maharaji throw it over his shoulder? Did he play some kind of an illusionary trick on me to make me think that he took it? Um, so he said, "Do it again. Give me some more." So he gave him more again, and Maharaji mockingly like stuck his tongue out, put it on his tongue, like what it was very clear that he was taking it. And again, nothing.
Nothing. We've talked about this and kind of teeter-tottered each way, like, leaning like, that's just a myth, that can't be true, but maybe it could be true. So, like, I don't know. I feel like I believe it to be true. For a while, I didn't, but I think I believe it, and well, the reason I wanted you to tell a story is, because reading, uh reading Robert Monroe, so he attained enlightenment, whatever you wanna call it, just high levels of consciousness without ever using psychedelics. He did it through out of body experiences, which he started having out of body experiences accidentally. He wasn't trying to do it when he was, like, 48, it just started happening. But the reason I wanted you to tell that story is because he had the same experience. He was given because this man has so much, like, studies done on him because he's pretty much the reason why out-of-body experiences are studied in the Western world. He really made this because he was, like, a credible guy, he wasn't crazy, and he's, like when you read the book, he's a good writer, like, he's legit. So, in one of, like they studied the hell out of his brain, but they gave him medical grade LSD and another medical grade psychedelic, I forget which one, but nothing happened, which is crazy. And that seems and it seems impossible, but it reminded me of that story you just told me. But the thing is, this guy had when this happened, it was after he already had like 800 out of body experiences, or like other people call it near death experiences. Like somebody has one of those, it changes their life. Like when you read about his experiences, like he really understands, like, what's going on, and he's never taken a psychedelic or it's never worked for him. Like, he talks about different realms or, experiencing infinity and God and like all the stuff that you hear from gurus and uh all these like masters and teachers, you hear the same thing from him, but he got there through the method of out of body experiences, and he didn't even try to do it. It happened to him by accident, and then once he stopped being so scared and dove into it, then he went head first. He went in hard and like really went as deep as you can go. But in studying his brain and all that, they wanted to see what would happen to him when you give him a psychedelic. They gave him LSD, medical or lab grade. I don't know if you'd say medical, but like straight out of a lab. And he said nothing happened. And it just made me think of that story because it's crazy. It seems like it's impossible, but that it just I don't know. Would that be just two people lying and a huge coincidence, or is it something about people that have something to them where it wouldn't affect them? I don't know, because this man, at the time where he did this, he's had hundreds of really deep mystical experiences. Like, he'd do this all the time.
So one of the first things that like the mushroom ever told me, kind of sounds like a weird way to put it, but um it really does happen that way. It feels like you're speaking to someone or something, like something extra or ultra intelligence, or something like that. And one of the first messages that I got was that, you don't need psychedelics to get to these places. And I still have a hard time like really believing that, because some of the places that I've been on psychedelics are just so outrageous that I can't see them being possible with like normal brain physiology. But it seems to be true that you can get to these places with many different types of methods. So, that being said, where is it? Where is that place? Like what are we accessing, and why do plants allow us to access it?
I mean, I don't know. It's absolutely insane. I mean,
It's the
it's
ultimate question.
well, yeah, it is. But I believe that you can reach all those states, and that's why I'm so interested in uh like dreams and the astral experiences, out of body stuff, because I've had experiences already through dreaming that have mirrored psychedelic stuff. So I know it's possible. I already know it's possible without the psychedelic. I don't know. I haven't had it happen to me in just pure waking consciousness like this. I haven't had that, but I've had it in dream states with no chemicals. So it's crazy to know that there is, I don't know, countless ways that you can get to these states of mind or, levels of consciousness. That's why I don't know, I'm really into this dream aspect right now because I truly believe deep down that I can get really good at it too and attain it. So that's the thing. The thing though that about this is we're talking about having a little bit of fear from the psychedelics right now. This method is also scary, like, 'cause I the reason I haven't been doing the, the hemi-sync or the different frequencies every night is because I'm kind of afraid to do it at night. That's why I did it in the morning, like, when I woke up and the sun was just rising, because I don't wanna get stuck in that vibrational state and my body not be able to move and have, like, a sleep paralysis in the dark and have demons in my room because I'm pretty sure that's a big possibility of happening. If it's light, I'd feel a lot better about it. But yeah, I wanna do it in the morning more, but I'm gonna start doing it at night. I just have to get over that fear because it's crazy. I know the capabilities of, like, your mind, and it's you just gotta face it head on. That's what I have to do. But I'm terrified of sleep paralysis. That's one thing I really don't wanna have to deal with, but I felt like I was getting to that stage a little bit when I was doing my meditation the other morning, 'cause you get to a point where you're in that vibrational stage and I felt like if I opened my eyes, I might start seeing stuff because I was hearing stuff. So I was like, there's a little bit of fear that I have to overcome yet.
It is light and love and all of that, but it's also everything else. Like you said, there's There's demons, there's angels. It's all in the same realm.
And I don't wanna sound crazy or anything, but I've heard other people say this too. When you start I don't know, cause like, when I look at the people that have said this, I think they're crazy, so I'm gonna sound crazy. But I hear people say, like, when they start doing this work, like, they'll start seeing, like, shadow figures in their peripheral a lot, and that's, like, actually that started happening to me, like, I I I know I'm not going crazy, but I see movement and, like, shadowy figures sometimes, and I feel like if and I've in this room, so, like, I feel like if I tried to do that meditation and I get into a sleep paralysis, like, I'm convinced that there's gonna be demons in my room.
Well, there's no such thing as crazy in the pursuit of infinity. So
Well,
if there's anywhere you can say things like that, it's here.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's nothing that really is, like, something huge in my life that I worry about, and I think there's, like, shit following me. I'm not schizophrenic or anything, but I don't know, have you ever had anything like that happen? Like, you ever, like, kinda see stuff in your peripheral or, like, movement and then, like I don't know.
I don't see things in my peripheral necessarily. What I do see in my life is I get synchronicities,
I do too, yeah.
and that's my favorite thing. Whenever I see a synchronicity, I just smile so big because you know about like Jung's idea of what like a synchronicity is and like how synchronicities are sort of like accepted in the spiritual path. Like it's essentially if you start to notice synchronicities and you really make an effort to pay attention to seeing them and to finding them, it's like when you see them, they're almost like guides on the path. Like if you're seeing synchronicities and you're noticing them, then it's almost as if you're doing the work. Like you're going in the right direction, if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
And to me, synchronicities are like quote unquote God speaking through the physical reality. You know, it's almost like you can see the fibers in the connection that the spirit realm has with the physical world through synchronicities. And if you're following them, noticing them, and not scared by them, because some people get really scared when they see synchronicities. You know, Shane Moss. Do you know who Shane Moss is? He's a comedian who has a great podcast, and another great podcast with Ramin Nazer, who's another comedian. But this guy, he actually did a documentary where he smoked like DMT like hundreds of times. Like, I mean, just an exorbitant amount of DMT. And he had been put in like a mental institution at one point. And what happened was he would see these synchronicities and he would see the way in which reality wasn't real and that he actually controlled reality through his own mind. And like, normally these things are, paranoid, schizophrenic type of symptoms. But if done the right way, if taken lightly but taken seriously, like what did Terrence McKenna say? Take it easy, but take it, dude. Um, I love that quote. But yeah, if you really put yourself into the physical world in a way where you can notice these synchronicities, I think it's an aid in, the spiritual path.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I like the way you put that, like, how you use like you said, it's, like, kind of noticing it like a guide, and it, like, allows you to know you're on the path and kinda to follow it, like, because that's what I've been getting with, like I was saying, like, with my intuition. So, like, I'll get, like, a message, like, where normally I would just be like, "Oh, it's just a random thought, it's nothing," but now I look at it like something more, like God speaking through me to do something, and it becomes that by acknowledging it as such, rather than just being just like a silly thought to brush off. I start to realize, like, where are these thoughts coming from, and what is it about them that resonates deeply within me and tells me, like, that it's something that I should do. Like, it's different than when you have these type of thoughts, it's not just like a throwaway thing like I would always treat it, like, for instance, like, just the deep intuition to meditate. And then all the times I would get that and not do it, I think to myself, like, where did that come from and why didn't I do it? And what would happen if I did do it every time? Where would I be? So, like, I've noticed that that intuition, I don't think it's ever steered me wrong, which is crazy. And I'm not talking about just the surface level egotistical thoughts that I come up with. When I'm getting these intuitions, it's not just like a surface level egotistical thought either. It's like something different about it and the way it's coming through. It's like there's something about it that resonates. And there's a part of me that just knows to follow it, but it's the ego mind, that smaller self that always strays me somewhere else to my cell phone or like just something that's completely just something minuscule and meaningless. And it's like we think about how much time we spend doing things like that. And I was sitting down thinking about this like the other day and I was thinking what would be possible if I just simply followed that intuition? Like it's there. I don't have to ask for it. I mean, just doing what I've been doing, I've been getting these feelings and starting to acknowledge them as something more rather than just passing them off as just silly thoughts or my imagination. It's like everything in my life has been recontextualized and now it allows me to like view everything in a whole different sense. Like rather than a physicalist, materialist, scientific, rational, organized mechanism life in front of me, I don't see everything that way anymore. It's like now I can look at it as a spiritual experience, like everything in life, like the whole experience, and it just reframes everything. And it's a good feeling, and it makes me realize that like what we're actually capable of. I mean, everybody is. It's just whether we acknowledge it and follow the path. And it's I think sometimes I get down on myself because it's like, damn, I wasted so much time just doing nonsense and like following the ego. But the beautiful thing is now I can move forward and just treat this moment in that frame of mind. And who knows like what I'll accomplish or how I can feel because the way I feel now, I wouldn't think would have been possible like 2 years ago. So, like and this is just the beginning. Like, the one beautiful thing about this podcast is all we're doing is documenting our spiritual journey. Like, this is just us talking without the microphones. Like, this is what we'd be doing anyway. So, like, it's gonna be cool to see, if we continue doing this. Like, you'll be able to look back on these episodes and then in 5 years from now, see how far we've come and the difference in us and the changes. It's just like the pursuit of infinity it was a great idea for us to do just because this is what we do. And so we're just documenting it and now you guys can follow with us and hopefully a lot of people that listen, they're doing the same thing. Maybe they're in the beginning stages or maybe they haven't even begun yet, but I don't know, take the ride with us basically.
Yeah, man. The Pursuit of Infinity. I think that was one of your ideas for the name. And
Yeah.
man, what I love about the name, and which is why I gravitated toward it, was just the concept. Think about it, pursuing infinity. Like when
Never.
you pursue something, like people say, like pursue your career, pursue your passion, you pursue this, you pursue that. There's always a goal at the end. And this goal is infinity. The goal is nothing. The goal in itself is the journey.
Yeah.
And, it's already been a wild ride. And I mean, I have no idea where it's going, but the path of the seeker has a foundation in the mystery, in it being a mystery.
Oh yeah.
My life was before very materialistic, very analytical, and I prided myself on that.
Allows you to put yourself on a high horse too. You look down at all the fundamentalists and all the irrational people and say, "Hey, I'm better because I get it."
Exactly. And the path of understanding that this is a grand mystery is humbling to the point where you realize that you're not above anyone. We are all 100% on an equal plane here. And just because I feel that this is the right path for a human to go down. That's my path, you know?
Mhm.
And it's my role to be involved in this. That's another part of this is that when you look at the concept of like a preordained divine plan, that resonates as well because it's like we all have our own quest, our own purpose to give back to the collective consciousness or something like that. That's what it feels like, at least to me. And, I feel so lucky and thankful that my karmic path in this particular incarnation has been built to the point where it's allowing me to experience the magic of the universe. And to me, it feels that that's part of my path and part of what I have to offer the world and the greater, collective or, however you want to say it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I was listening to well, first I wanna say that I also am very grateful, and I think I'm getting you exactly, like, the karmic path that for some reason in this life, we're lucky enough to be on a journey of this magnitude. Like, so many people go through lives missing this so much, and, whatever you do is great, but I feel lucky that for some reason, this is the path that I ended up on. And I was listening to, Jordan Peterson. I think he was talking to Aubrey Marcus. I forget, but he was talking about basically like he was talking about how people's interests are like it's not just like, if you're interested in cars, it's not just like, oh, you saw a car and it was like, "Oh, that's cool. I'm gonna focus on cars for years now." It's like something deep in you, like, biological is the way he put it. Like, not everybody is interested in the same things. Like, you didn't choose what you're interested in. Like, something happened and you saw something and it pulled you. Like, we gravitated towards this. Like, a lot of people I mean, we get so wrapped up in our own worlds, we don't realize like not everybody is sitting down watching spiritual videos and doing like this type of work or meditating or any of that. Like there was something about us and also I feel so lucky that you're my brother. So like what were the chances of this? That we happen to be interested in this same thing and we are on this path together. Like how insane is that? And like you could say like, "Oh, well, of course you guys are brothers, of course you like the same stuff." But dude, you ever meet people and their siblings and they're completely different, like 90% of the times they're just completely opposite people. Like one of them is a intellectual and the other is like a blue collar type guy or something like it's just strange that we ended up both along this same path. And when I realized the fact that I didn't choose it either, like I said, you can't force somebody to be interested in something. Like I can't be forced to be interested in the cars like a mechanic would be. Like so it chose us. Like we ended up having whatever it is that makes you interested and crave the truth or seek the mystery. Like there's something deep, deep inside us that led us here. And I do think there's a bit of that in every person. I mean, it's just such a great mystery. But I sit there and think sometimes I get wrapped up so much in myself. I'm like, oh, everybody is this way. But it's really not true. Like I don't want to say, oh, we're unique or special, but I just feel lucky and gratitude that this is something that we are drawn to. Like I said, you can't force somebody to be interested in something. So that's why, like, when you get on in this path too, you want to shove it down everyone's throat at first because you're like, this is so amazing. Why don't you understand? It's like somebody who loves cars just trying to spit mechanical shit in my face, and I like don't want to hear it. So I that's one thing I've realized too. I got to keep some of this to myself a little more.
Yeah, one of the first stages that I went through was the evangelical stage. You remember, I was telling everybody, like, you guys, you got to do this. Everyone has to do mushrooms. Like, that's the answer, you know.
But
And
isn't
it's you find out along the path that that's just like that's a beginner stage mentality, you know.
but isn't it crazy to think though, like just the point that yeah, you can't make someone interested in something. Just that alone was a huge realization for me to, like then I realized that this is this is just for me, you know what I mean? This is just for us, this interest. Like, it's really beautiful, like, when you think about it, and that's why part of me that's like that realization was big because now it really made me realize I have to follow that intuition and have belief in, like, maybe some abilities that sound crazy or just ridiculous because I'm drawn to this. I don't know if you would say for a reason, but it just is. That's what it is. So maybe if I follow that intuition hard enough and really do the work and really just follow this as my passion because it is, who knows what I'm capable of is basically what I'm saying. Like who knows what gift you can develop or what kind of just the effect on your life is just it's you could never quantify it. It's just it's beautiful for me. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, I do also want to say that I'm so grateful and honored that you're my brother as well, and that we get to go down this path together. And I'm honored and grateful that all the people in our family are open to this. I mean, look at how many people like in our immediate family that we've introduced these things to, and that like these modes of thought, these modalities have taken over, our family like a virus.
Mhm.
It's been
Yeah,
fantastic.
we really did spread this out a bit too.
Yeah, the
But
support system I think is so important too, because the people you care about, it's part of pathologizing. When I first started going down this path, I was pathologized as a crazy person by the people that I cared about most, until they started to understand what I was talking about, and like it was like, okay, maybe he's not so crazy. But your support system means everything. There's a lot of people out there that are going down a similar path, and the people around them are not receptive at all to it.
yeah, completely reject them and the idea, and that's how people end up in like asylums and stuff, honestly, because
It's a spiritual emergency thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if we were saying this stuff to the wrong person, they would legitimately think that we were crazy. But I was just gonna say also, like, I have so much gratitude also that I know this, I don't I hope it doesn't come off as, like, ego, like, just like I'm blowing up my ego, but I have gratitude that you and we also have the tools. Like, it's like some people when I talk to it's like also they're not interested. Like, if you try to force this onto somebody, sometimes they're just not interested, which is a lot, and other times they don't get it. Like, they don't get it, and I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal and say like, "Ooh, I get it and you don't." It's just like, I'm grateful for the tools that I have that allow me to really pursue my passion. Like, I guess that's why it's my passion, you know? So, at least I have the tools I need. I like that. I know I have everything I need in order to pursue this passion. I and that's the thing, I feel like a lot of people I'm kinda just going all over the place, but I was telling you this the other day, we were talking about how there's, like, 3 stages of development, basically. There's the pre-rational, the rational, and the trans-rational, and the pre-rational would be a fundamental religious person who gets their understanding of the world just off of pure faith, like, no rationalization involved, like, you were told, like, say, like, a fundamentalist Christian was told that the world is this way, don't ask questions. They already know, they got it. The next stage, rational, would be like an atheist who would, who rationalizes their whole world and understands, like, okay, there's no proof of God. They come up with this on their own, kind of. So, like, they're very rational minded, and that's the way they have their outlook on the world. That's, like, usually an atheist. And then the trans-rational is kind of what you would call the spiritual person, somebody on the path, which would be it's not excluding the rational, it's rational plus. So it's after rational, but also including. So I think another just some more gratitude. I was thinking that we're lucky that we weren't brought up in a religious family or a family with any ideologies. Like we were kind of just our minds were allowed to be molded on their own. Like think about it. Like nobody in our family told us what to think. We didn't really have any of that. So like we had the benefit of starting off at the rational stage, because it's crazier. The rationalist, the atheist, is actually closer to God than the fundamentalist, the rational. So, because it goes in that order, basically. Obviously, it can be different. You can skip whatever, but we started off very rational at as we were kids. We never, had we never went to church or talked about any type of firm belief system or ideologies. No political standing. Like, think about it. Growing up, we had nothing. I mean, that's kind of crazy. Like, we didn't have much guidance in that sense. But it's a beautiful thing that allowed us to become real people, like become who we are and have our own thoughts. And so I think it's important to not let yourself fall into an ideology and come to conclusions independently and verify them yourself rather than like like I say this, I'm sorry to be rambling, but if you find yourself like standing firm with a political party and you agree with everything in one of the parties, then you're not you, because there's no way that you perfectly came to that identity on your own. Like, you were morphed into somebody else's idea of something. Like, so when you find yourself like fighting for a party, that there's like, there's two parties and you're fighting hard on one side, you have to realize like you didn't come up with that. So I'm trying to distance myself from everything and actually become who I am and not be influenced by all this stuff that's coming at me. Cause I realized that I started leaning toward a political party and I was like, why do I agree with everything that they say and I don't agree with everything they say? Like, that just doesn't add up. Do I have any actual belief? Is any of this me? Or am I just identifying with one of the choices? So I realized there's something wrong there. Like, there's no way I'm actually being myself and being truly who I am, and I can align with something so firmly and the other not at all. So I'm trying to distance myself from all that and become who I actually am.
And I'm glad you brought this concept up because the tools that you were referring to really, I mean, if you really want to go deep into it, I really feel like those tools come from previous incarnations, you know? And if you want to get a little bit, less broad with it, they come from your childhood and from how you were brought up from every, it's like the butterfly effect. If a butterfly flaps its wings in a certain way, then down the line, world war might happen or not have happened. So in that same spirit, the tools that we have that we are so grateful for now started when we were a baby. They started pre-baby. If you look into this is really interesting. I talked to Joe Moore, the CEO of Psychedelics Today, about this. Stan Groff's BPM, birth perinatal matrices. Have you ever heard of this concept before?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
So this is essentially a psychological framework that's built around like the birth process. So there's if I'm gonna get this right, there's four stages. The first stage is you're in the womb, you have uh, all of the love and all the nutrients and all of the wondrous gifts from your mother, and you're just bathing in the love and the beauty. And then stage 2 comes, which is essentially like the constriction of like the cervix or whatever. And it's like a no escape type of scenario where you're being like smothered and squeezed and it's a struggle and it's like there's no way out type of thing. And then the third phase is the cervix begins to open and you see the light at the end of the tunnel, like it's a new hope, Star Wars. Joe Moore brought that up actually too, in talking about this, and it's funny because George Lucas was heavily inspired by Joseph Campbell when he wrote the Star Wars trilogy. The hero's journey was the framework in which he drew inspiration from.
Yeah, perfectly.
But yeah, that third stage is like you see the light at the end of the tunnel, and there becomes hope that emerged from your struggle. And then the fourth stage is the release, like you're brought out into the light. And so Groff found that people that were experiencing, because he's facilitated over like 4,000 LSD psychotherapy sessions along with inventing holotropic breathwork with his late wife. So he's seen a lot of people experiencing or re-experiencing these birth matrices as part of their therapeutic experience, and he created a psychological framework around it. And one of the things that he pointed out was that when babies are circumcised, they're not given any sort of anesthesia or anything like that. So there's a psychological element that comes with performing a surgery on a baby that you just say, he can't feel the pain. He's not going to remember. He's a baby. He doesn't know anything. You can't, he's floating around in a placenta for the last 9 months. He's barely even a human right now. But in fact, there are psychological effects that come with things like that. And also with C sections, if you're not able to experience the full breadth of, these four matrices, then there's a different psychological framework that you were going to work under, or it's going to have different psychological effects on you depending on if you were a C-section or if you were a regular birth. So, I mean, if you just even take that into consideration, you can look at every single event in your life as a child, young adult, into an adult. And these are the formative years where we are gaining the tools that we need in order to, fulfill our destiny. And it seems, again, maybe divine, preordained. I just feel so grateful and so lucky that my life processes have led me to be able to experience all of this.
I have a question. I don't want to say, do you believe this, but let's just talk about it a little bit. How do you feel about the idea that you have those tools and you're put in your life and you are you for to learn a specific lesson? Like you are on this path for a reason. Basically, I'm talking kind of about incarnation. Like, do you feel like it could be that as we all have like a soul and we are always just having new lives, like you'll be born again and you'll have the tools needed to grow your soul in the next life. Basically, that you are an eternal soul and we're along this path of self-realization. Your last life, what you did and what you learned is all taken into account, and then you're placed into this life to add more to that.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate in my view. The way I see it, your soul has a certain amount of karmic work that it takes a physical incarnation in order to complete. And what that does after you complete that karmic work, your whatever you've learned, maybe it's the love that you've shared, maybe it's the lesson that you were meant to learn, maybe it's whatever your purpose was in life, something seems to be contributed back into the collective consciousness. And then, you know, your karma continues. I think your karma continues in every incarnation. Your soul seems to be the only constant.
Right. So let's try to make this clear then. So when we're talking about karma, you don't add a morality, you don't attach a morality to that, right? Like a lot of people think you do something like bad karma, like you're gonna get if you do something bad in this life, you'll be a fucking fly eating shit in your next life.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up. The distinction like between what we associate karma with in like the mainstream culture and what karma actually is. Karma is essentially it's your incarnation's work. Like your soul's work, and it's like the reason that your soul takes a physical incarnation.
I think the word means action. It is like a call. I think the reason we just attach the morality to it, but it is like a kind of cause and effect relationship. Everything is taken into account, and whatever you do in this life will have its effect in the next, but not based on a heaven or hell or any type of morality that we as a culture created. Because that's something we can talk about even is just morality in general and how it is attached to like spiritual belief and religions and all that. And it's funny that people take morality as an absolute, and it's definitely not an absolute. I mean, morality is basically the most relative thing you could think of. I mean, if you go to different cultures, we all have different ideas of what gets you into heaven and what's good karma and what's bad karma. Who's to say and who is right? And I think the answer to that is that it's not. It just isn't that.
karma is karma, and whether you're Hitler or whether you're Gandhi, like your karma is your karma, and you are put here to fulfill whatever purpose that serves.